Welcome, everybody. We're live. We're here at the in Downers Grove at the corner of Belmont and Ogden Avenue, and we're at Power Mart. And I'm here with Brian Costin, who I've known for probably a decade, as he's worked on a number of policy positions in the state of Illinois. Brian, you now work with Americans for Prosperity, and Americans Prosperity has set up this sort of a gas giveaway or a gas discount. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing here in Downers Grove and why you're doing this?
Yeah, so we have reduced prices on gasoline to $2.38 per gallon.
Why $2.38, by the way?
So that was the national average when Joe Biden was inaugurated in January 2020.
Okay, that's great. So that was the national average. Tell me more about the program.
So basically, what we're trying to raise awareness is to the cost of government, the true cost of government to our true cost of Washington. The reason why gas prices are so high is because of policies on the federal level and the state level. On the federal level, reckless spending has fueled inflation. We've literally had to be printing money in order to pay our bills, and that has caused prices to go up for things like gasoline, but groceries, housing, and everything else. And also we have bad energy policy. And so we need to have a policy of energy abundance in the United States. And instead of knocking down pipelines, we need to be building pipelines and tapping into what America really has as far as national resources. On the state level, we also have big problems there. Governor Pritzker doubled the gasoline tax in 2019. We now have the second highest gasoline taxes in the nation. And it really makes a big impact because if I go across the border to Wisconsin, the gas prices immediately drop 80 cents. I visited Missouri earlier this year, and the gas prices were like $1.20, $1.40 lower than here in Illinois. So it makes policies make a really big difference, and we are here to educate people to make changes to the political system in order to bring those prices back down.
Well, Americans Prosperity does a great, terrific job. You guys have been involved in a number of ways. If folks who are listening to this broadcast, honestly, go to their website and learn more. Now, you and I like even more details because everybody's like, oh, it's gas taxes. Oh, it's like federal regulation. But it's even more than that. So in the state of Illinois, you literally can go across the border to Missouri, which we have the second highest gas taxes, soon to be the highest gas taxes in our nation, because we have an escalator that goes into play every July 1st. We're going to talk about the suspension of that in just a minute, but I want to get back to this policy point. But it's even more than that. We also have federal and state regulations about emissions and gas blends and everything else that makes it more costly for people in this state of Illinois. So it goes far deeper than just a tax policy. Am I right?
Absolutely. And so all these policies have consequences in the pocketbooks of people. And the people who are out here today, we were talking to some of them earlier, are just super appreciative of the gas prices being brought down to where they were previously. But we're trying to let them know that they can make a difference in advocating for better policies on the state level, on the federal level. And so this isn't just a one-time thing, but people can have cheaper gas prices all year round.
Okay, so as I said before, there's over 50% of the state of Illinois. They live near the border, near enough to go by. And I mean, so does this policy really benefit us in the end if we're not competitive with our neighbors?
Well, I think it's emblematic of the lack of competitiveness in Illinois overall. If people go over the border to Wisconsin for gas or go to Indiana or go to Missouri, first it's for gas, but then maybe they start thinking about, well, maybe I should also work over here. Maybe I should live over here. And it's a big for sale sign on the state of Illinois. And it's not good policy. We need to be more competitive in the state of Illinois. Our taxes, combined state and local taxes, are the highest in the nation. And that's really difficult for a lot of people. So people are making difficult choices, even though they love the state of Illinois, to try to find greener pastures elsewhere. And really, we need to try to find greener pastures in places like Springfield and Chicago to help turn around the state of Illinois for the better.
Well, for those who are listening, we are in Ann Stava Murray's district. She's a Democrat state representative, and I'm pretty sure she voted for the gas tax increase. So we'll make sure that we double verify that. But I'm darn sure that she voted for this increase in 2019 that has created this havoc. And so what we like to say is like your politicians make policy on you. If you don't like the policy, then you got to change out the politicians. And I know you're a 501c3. You guys strictly talk about policy, but I'll tell you what, you also know that that's the case. There's some legislators down there that just don't listen. They don't have a broader expanse when it comes to a policy discussion.
Well, it was the way that the gas tax was passed. It was passed after the legislative deadlines. The bill was created basically overnight and ran through the legislature very, very quickly. So there's a broken process in Springfield as well. Things need to change. I think the first step in regards to the gas tax is to stop the automatic escalators every single year, and at least force some accountability on legislators and force them to vote to raise people's taxes every single year rather than just automatically increasing it. And I think if that happens, along with electing people who are more conservative in regards to policies like the gas tax, we can no longer be the highest or second highest gas taxes in the nation, but start to move in a better direction in the state of Illinois.
Well, that's terrific. Speaking about that escalator, it goes into effect every July 1st, but the generous Governor Pritzker has suspended that gas tax for 6 months. Basically, a 2-cent gas tax increase was scheduled for July 1st. He suspended it because he's so magnanimous towards taxpayers, right? Isn't that what happened?
Well, he was the one that doubled our gas tax to begin with. And the way that they're selling it is they're saying that they're saving the taxpayers a lot of money by not raising taxes even further that they already raised multiple times in the last few years. And so Governor Pritzker isn't saving the people of Illinois any money. The cost is extraordinarily high, between $4 and $5 billion a year from all his different tax increases combined. And so that's impacting the people in the state of Illinois in a time where we just got out of the coronavirus and things like the recession that happened in regards to that. All of the other states surrounding us have recovered faster than the state of Illinois, whether it's in terms of jobs or GDP. So we're falling behind our neighbors like Indiana and Wisconsin and Missouri, and it's bad news for the state of Illinois.
And on top of that, they also then passed legislation. A piece of propaganda must go on every retail gas outlet, dispensary. And that says what, Brian?
It says that they have paused the increase in the gasoline tax for 6 months, but it's really a slap in the face to not only gas station owners, but to the motorists of Illinois. They didn't require a sticker to be put up when they doubled the gasoline taxes. They didn't require it when they increased it on every July 1st. They didn't mention anything about how they're increasing the gas tax twice next year. It is political propaganda. It's really
in an election year.
In an election year, it's, we're in July here. The election's in November. I hope that the voters of Illinois kind of see through gimmicks like that and want politicians that are more in line with permanent reforms, like stopping the gas tax increases or rolling back the gas tax increase.
Okay, final question here. How much money does Americans for Prosperity intend to give away during this 2-hour time frame? You've got a line all the way down Belmont here in Downers Grove. Again, we're at the intersection of Downers Grove and Ogden, where Americans for Prosperity is giving people a break on filling up their tanks today. Yeah. It's a constant stream of people coming in and out of the gas stations. So how much do you expect to spend on this?
Yeah, so I just saw the sticker on the car. We've done 116 cars so far. We've got about another hour or so left. So we'll probably get maybe 200 cars in here today. And typically our events cost between $4,000 and $6,000 that we pay to bring the cost down. And so that saves a lot of people money. As you can see, the people that are lined up here, they're really appreciative. Multiple people coming up to us, thanking us for bringing back down the gas prices to $2.38 per gallon. I wish we didn't have to do events like this. I wish our gas prices were lower all the time, back where they were back just less than 2 years ago. And so that's our goal, is to raise awareness so that this is the much lower gas prices year round rather than just on a special event in one day.
Terrific. So this is Brian Costin with Americans for Prosperity, and this is their Pay More Get Less
Yes.
tour.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thanks so much for joining us.
Jeannie.
Okay, welcome back to Belmont and Ogden and Downers Grove, where Americans for Prosperity is giving away gas today. And with me is Jerry Navarro. Jerry, you've got lunch set up for us. I'm looking forward to that because your motto is...
If you like our beef, you love our sausage.
Yep.
Everything's homemade at DeCampo's. Like she said, we're at the corner of Ogden and Belmont. We're open 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday. If you want real, homemade, authentic Italian food, come visit us. We're here, like I said, 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday. Everything's homemade. Today, what I prepared for the folks is a Italian sausage and peppers. We're doing a pasta with fresh tomato, basil, and a garlic and oil sauce, as well as our homemade chicken parm and a couple other items. Doing some homemade cannolis and Italian ice for dessert. We're in for a treat, folks. Thank you. Come out and see us.
All right, thanks a lot, Jerry. That's great. I can't wait to go eat something. Welcome back to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. I hope you enjoyed that first segment where I was with Brian Costin. He's a member of Americans for Prosperity. In fact, he helps run the Illinois area for Americans for Prosperity. They're all about good government, free markets, and free people. I was wearing a sticker earlier that day called Pay More, Get Less. Pay more, get less. Well, that really does sum up both the Biden and the Pritzker administrations. You're paying more, you're getting less. Well, how much so? Let's go back into the gas price issue just a little bit longer. And this came out. This is an article by Stacker, and it just came out on July 10th. It says Illinois has seen a 55.9% increase in gas prices since last year. Now, what's interesting about this article is that, we are by far not the highest increase. In fact, Arizona is the highest gas price increase at 63.6% increase, or $1.98 a gallon. For Illinois, by the numbers, regular gas prices have increased since July of 2021, 55.9%, or $1.88 a gallon. Well, let's see how that compares to our neighbors. And here you need a little bit of honesty because, sometimes facts and statistics can't tell you the whole story. So number 5 with the largest gas price increases since last year, number 5 is actually Missouri. Missouri is our neighbor. Now, what we do know about Missouri is it has the second lowest gas taxes. Illinois has the second highest gas taxes. And the reason Missouri is so important to discuss, it's just like what Brian Costin and I were discussing, is that as a border state with a lot of population very near the Missouri border, a lot of people cross over to fill up with gas. So in this case, though, it was shocking to me. Hey, Missouri has seen a 59% increase in regular gas price since last July. Well, that's $1.66 per gallon increase. Now, that $1.66 per gallon increase is greater, of course, than less than Illinois' $1.88 per gallon increase. What does it mean about overall prices? Well, to find out more about that, you need to go to GasBuddy. GasBuddy.com gives you all sorts of information on gas prices. And in this case, when you look at gas prices today, as of today, that they update this all the time. The lowest gas prices in the nation, on average, are in South Carolina, $4.122, so $4.12 a gallon. Missouri is $4.40 a gallon, or actually, to be precise, $4.408 per gallon. Well, what is Illinois? What's Illinois? Oh, let's go all the way down. Scroll down. Oh, here we go. Illinois is at 5.149 per gallon. So that puts us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth highest in the nation. Ninth highest in the nation compared to our Missouri. Even though Missouri's had a larger percentage increase in the year, they still are far cheaper when it comes in real payments that you're when you go to fill up with gas. So again, sometimes Pritzker might want to lie to you about statistics. You'll hear that a lot. Statistics can lie. So know your facts ahead of time. Still understand that we have some of the highest gas in the nation. Now, another article came out. This is from NBC5 Chicago. Gas prices tumble in Illinois, but remain nearly 50 cents higher than the national average. Well, there you go. There's a little bit of truth. Yes, they're down a little bit from before, but they are still 50 cents higher than the national average. Gas prices in the state of Illinois have dropped by more than 40 cents a gallon just in the last month. Overall, though, of course, 56% higher than last year, but 40 cents down over last month. But they're significantly higher than they are nationally. As of July 11th, the average cost for a gallon of unleaded is $5.148 is what they have it pegged out, right around what Gas Buddy said. So just a little bit more information when it comes to gas and gas prices and what we're facing in the state of Illinois. All right, moving on. There's another topic that I want to cover, and this is an article that, obviously caught my eye in the Wall Street Journal. It was yesterday's article called "The Never-Ending COVID Emergency." Wow. Just like Biden goes just like Pritzker, or just like Pritzker goes just like Biden. And I'm going to get to Pritzker in a minute, but let's start out with Biden. This Wall Street Journal article says Monday's news leak that the Biden administration will extend the COVID-19 public health emergency, which had been scheduled to end on Friday, for another 90 days was no surprise for a White House that seems to want a perpetual emergency. Exactly. It's exactly what Pritzker wants. He wants us to be in a constant state of emergency. I'm going to read about that in a minute. The Biden administration claims the declaration provides critical regulatory flexibility. How much more regulatory flexibility do they need? I mean, they already got slapped down with the EPA decision at the Supreme Court about a week ago. And now they want just more regulatory flexibility when it comes to COVID. We are so past COVID at this point. But let me read a little more. The emergency use authorizations for vaccines and treatments are governed by separate statute. The Health and Human Services Department could also make permanent other regulation flexibility, such as Medicare coverage for telehealth services. So what's going on? Why does he keep extending the emergency? Oh, well, here's the deal. One reason, according to the Wall Street Journal, is that in March 2020, Congress barred states from kicking ineligible people off Medicaid rolls during the emergency in return for more federal funding. Medicaid enrollment has ballooned to 95 million. 30% of Americans are now enrolled in Medicaid. That's up from 71 million in December of 2019. The emergency expands Medicaid in GOP states that opted out of Obamacare expansion. It also is a boom for insurers in states that pay per Medicaid participant. Hospitals and physician groups support extending the emergency because they worry that state Medicaid payments will decline if the federal fill-up goes away. That's exactly what's going on. It's all about money. Another reason, Congress in March of 2020 suspended food stamp work requirements during the emergency and sweetened benefits in states that maintained their own declarations, which Illinois has done, by the way. Of course we've done that. We've said you can have any benefit you want and not have to prove that you're working for it. That's Illinois. You can be perfectly able-bodied and single with no children, able-bodied single adults. That's a category, actually. It's a category. And not work, not have to do any volunteer work, not have to do any preparation to get a certificate or anything like that, not to go through any training, nothing. And you can still get full benefits in the state of Illinois. As of April, 41.2 million Americans were receiving food stamps, an average of $228 monthly per person, which is about 4.4 million more than before the pandemic. So this is about keeping the party going, keeping the government funds moving to states, blue states especially, like the state of Illinois, and then at the same time, keeping people used to getting that government funding, getting that government money. Okay, something else about that I find very interesting, and I'm going to move to another article that I've wanted to bring up here. Hold with me one moment while I go back to finding it. Here we go. WirePoint's had this article out. They pull up. In fact, if you haven't signed up to get the email daily email update from WirePoints, I suggest that you do. You get their original reporting, plus they do a compilation of a bunch of articles that are important to read if you're following anything in Illinois. They cover crime, economics, you name it, education, a lot of that stuff. This is what caught my eye, because not only do we have a lot of government largesse at the state level, the first round, according to this Fox 32 report, the first round of $500 monthly payments became distributed to Chicago residents. Chicago's monthly cash assistance program got underway Monday with the first $500 monthly payments going out to low-income households who face financial hardship during the pandemic. The cash payments are funded through the $31.5 million Chicago Resilient Communities pilot, which gives 5,000 Chicago households $500 cash payments every month for a year. In order to fully recover from economic impacts of COVID-19, we must develop solutions that equitably and inclusively address the challenges facing our residents, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said in a statement. Through this cash assistance program, we are able to serve those who have borne the brunt of COVID-19. Direct cash payments have the potential to be truly transformative for communities that need it the most, which is why I remain so proud to be able to provide this vital programming for residents. And make no doubt about it, this pot of money comes from federal taxpayer largesse related to the pandemic. They are spending pandemic money to hand out $500 monthly cash payments to 5,000 low-income people. At the same time, there's no requirement for them to do anything for this money. Nothing. Volunteer, clean up the streets, clean up the park next door, go get some certification. Nothing. Single abled, no children adults. Single able-bodied adults. Okay. Now, Governor Pritzker. Now to Governor Pritzker and COVID-19. Well. I reported on this earlier. I'm reporting back on it again, but this particular article was written by Ted Dabrowski and John Klinger, again, of WirePoints. Governor Pritzker is still proclaiming Illinois a COVID disaster area. How does he do it with a straight face? Great question. Governor Pritzker recently declared Illinois a COVID disaster area for the 31st consecutive 30-day period. For more than 2 years, the governor has invoked a disaster to rule by executive order. It's what allowed him to lock down businesses, impose mask mandates, close schools, and micromanage healthcare across the state. His most recent emergency declaration of June 24, 2022, continued to use the same language. I find that a disaster area exists within the state of Illinois and specifically declare all counties in the state of Illinois as a disaster area. This is really interesting, and Ted brought up an excellent point. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but first this. Illinois, a disaster area, writes Ted. There's nothing disastrous about it. And all counties are a disaster area. Even if you were sympathetic to Pritzker's disaster declarations during the height of the pandemic, you'd have to admit his pronouncement is absurd. Every major metric, from vaccinations to hospitalizations to deaths, tells us that. Here's some statistics. By the end of June, 78% of adults and nearly 90% of Illinoisans aged 65 plus, the most vulnerable population to COVID, were vaccinated. In all, 2/3 of all Illinoisans are now fully vaccinated. Just 3% of ICU beds on average were filled with COVID patients over the past 3 months. It's the same with regular hospital beds. This too. Illinois has averaged 8 COVID deaths a day over the last 3 months. And even then, it's hard to know whether they died because of COVID or with COVID. Those deaths are tragic. I agree with Ted, but they don't make Illinois a disaster state. Illinois COVID deaths peaked at more than 150 deaths daily. Here's another one. 88% of Illinois' 744 COVID deaths since April 1st of 2022 have been over the age of 60, and the average age of those deaths has been about 75, not too distant from Illinois' average life expectancy of 79. Another fact, Not a single person under the age of 20 has died in the last 3.5 months. Now, why else is this absolute nonsense? Well, here's where I like to let people know that myself and everybody here who works at Breakthrough Ideas, we have a long history with policy, and we don't try to forget that policy. So what did Governor Pritzker say about COVID to begin with? Well, looking back, yes, back at this time, because remember now, he's declaring the entire state for the 31st month in a row a disaster area for COVID. Disaster. But back in July 15th of 2020, here is an NBC5 report. Illinois divided into 11 separate regions for coronavirus response. That's right. He took the state and he divided it into 11 separate regions for COVID response. They were generally North, North Central, West Central, Metro East, Southern, East Central, South Suburban, which was Kankakee and Will, West Suburban, DuPage and Kane, North Suburban, Lake and McHenry, Suburban Cook, and then Chicago. So he had 11 different regions. That's how he was going to impose any mitigation efforts to slow the spread of coronavirus. That's how he was going to do it, by regions. Now, Ted brought up a good point here. First of all, there are some cases where we actually have counties that have less than 10,000 people in them. And we have some cases where in those counties, you literally have single-digit COVID cases. Ted writes, tiny counties like Putnam and Edwards have COVID cases appearing in single digits. Cases, not deaths, cases. And they haven't experienced a single COVID death in over 3 months. So his first idea was, okay, we're going to go by regions. Now he's completely scrapped that. That's not happening. Well, what else has he scrapped? The other thing that he was going to do, remember this? Maybe you don't remember this. This is why we're here, to review the facts. May 5th, 2020, I distinctly remember this because I right after this, I had a very informative discussion with Kevin Most. He's the chief medical officer at Central DuPage Hospital. And we talked about his 5 phases to restore Illinois. And oh, by the way, Restore Illinois is a Darren Bailey campaign slogan. And it's something Darren Bailey has been saying for at least a year prior to Governor Pritzker calling, taglining his 5 phases as Restore Illinois for COVID, just to make a little point there. But regardless, he used 5 phases to quote unquote restore Illinois. Well, what were those 5 phases? Phase 1, you had rapid spread. That was strict stay at home and social distancing guidelines. Only essential businesses are open. Do you remember that? Do you remember the idiot circles and the one way down, store aisles? Do you remember that? Yeah. Okay. On phase 2 was when we were flattening the rate of infection among those tested, and the number of patients admitted to hospital beds and increases at a slower rate. So that was still an increase in ICU beds, but at a slower rate. Blah blah blah. So at this point, you could do curbside pickup and delivery. Remember that at some point you couldn't even do curbside pickup and delivery. This is just comical to reread this. Oh, Illinoisans are directed to wear a face covering when outside the home. And can begin enjoying additional outdoor activities like golf, boating, and fishing. Oh, but remember the ridiculous rules, right? Okay, you can only have 2 in a golf cart, 2 in a boat. But hey, your family of 6 can go all together there in the minivan. But you can't otherwise, these be in the same boat. I mean, this is just, remember this nonsense. Don't forget this nonsense when it comes to voting. These guys are idiots that are, lording over you for the 31st month in a row. Okay. All right. Phase 3 was recovery. We're in recovery. The rate of infection among those tested, the number of patients admitted to the hospital, the number of patients needing ICU beds is stable or declining. I'm reading straight from his stuff. Oh, now manufacturing, offices, retail, barbershops, and salons can reopen to the public with capacity and other limits and safety precautions. Oh, remember that? Like you can only have 10 people at a time in particular places. A church, you had entire two complete pews between an occupied pew. Families could sit together, but I can't believe, First of all, Jeanne Ives and her family did not really abide by any of these, just letting you know. Okay, phase 4, revitalization. The rate of infection among those tested and the number of patients admitted to the hospital continues to decline. All gatherings up to 50 people are allowed. Oh, finally, gatherings up to 50 are allowed. Restaurants and bars are open. Travel resumes. Childcare and schools reopen under guidance. Face coverings and social distancing are the norm. Oh, that's still the norm. Remember that. You guys don't forget any of this. Here we go. Phase 5, Illinois restored. Illinois restored. With a vaccine, here's where we should be completely open. The economy fully reopens with safety precautions continuing. Conventions, festivals, large events are permitted. All businesses, schools, places of recreation can open with new safety guidance and procedures in place. Blah, 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 blah. Here's Illinois fully restored. If we have a vaccine, we have multiple vaccines now, or highly effective treatment widely available, we've had that from the get-go, by the way. We have all that. Or the elimination of any new cases over a sustained period. Well, you're not going to eliminate COVID. We've seen, one variant after another variant pop up at this point. So COVID is pretty much here to stay, we believe. But what do we have? We have multiple vaccines, and we have highly effective treatments. And still, he cannot get rid of his disaster declaration. He can't get rid of it. What's worse? Well, the teacher unions, they want your kids fully masked again. And this is not, this seems like I'm going back to July of 2021 when we had this masking debate. Do you remember that? A number of school districts here locally were starting to say, mask optional, votes were taken, mask optional, and then Pritzker shut it all down. Pritzker did the bidding of the teacher unions who lost that bill, HB 2789, because the work that we did here at Breakthrough Ideas, alerting everybody and letting even the private schools understand that the teacher unions want control of how your schools operate. So we got that bill shut down. It passed the House. You had a bunch of idiot legislators who sign on to it, but it stopped in the Senate because we raised awareness of it. I'm still proud of our work, and maybe we'll reiterate that work and push out that video again. But the teacher unions still got their way through Pritzker by bullying him in to making masks mandatory through his Illinois Department of Public Health and coupled with the Illinois State Board of Education. So their guidance came down. That started the entire fight. Let's remember all this. Don't forget what you went through last year in July of 2021. Don't forget, it took until February of 2022 for the masks to come off because Tom DeVore had the courage to sue and to rally the forces and get enough parents to sue over it and get a good judgment coming in February. That's what happened. That's what happened. And the NEA won't give up. They won't give up. Here you go. From the Gateway Pundit. Woke National Teachers Union agenda includes mandatory masks, vaccines, and banning the words mother and father. Do you really think these people should be in charge of your kids' education anymore? Isn't it time, teachers who listen to my podcast, isn't it time to take control of your unions? Isn't it time to kick them to the curb? Aren't you professionals that can negotiate just like every other professional can negotiate their own, sorry, phone going off, negotiate their own contracts? Can't you do that? From the article, the National Education Association's annual conference is underway in Chicago. Yes, of course it happened in Chicago. This was published, by the way, this story was published on July 6, 2022. The group is calling for a national policy of mandatory masking, mandatory vaccinations, and rejecting the words mother and father. I don't even think I need to read anymore. I think you've heard enough. That's what they want. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you, the listeners, going to do about it? Are you going to let Pritzker continue to control your life? Or are you going to let the NEA control your schools? What are you going to do about it? Okay, coming up next, we're going to talk about some crime and a right track, wrong track for the state of, the country. And I'll be right back with you. The real story will continue with Jeanne Ives. Welcome back to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. Well, right direction or wrong direction? Rasmussen reports, new survey out, 19% of likely U.S. voters think the country is heading in the right direction, according to a new Rasmussen Reports National Telephone Online Survey for the week ending July 7th. 19%. Let me do a little math here. 81% say we're in the wrong direction then. That's unbelievable. This week's finding is up 1 point from a week ago. It used to be 18%. 76% of voters believe the nation is headed down the wrong track. The wrong track. A year ago at this time, 42% said the United States was heading in the right direction and 52% was on the wrong track. 76% of voters say we're headed on the wrong track. Well, I couldn't agree more. And in Illinois, it's even worse. This is an interesting article from the Center Square. Foreclosure rates are up 185% nationally from a year ago, and Illinois is leading the pack. In May, 1 of every 2,000 housing units had a foreclosure filing in Illinois. And Chicago had the third worst rate among metropolitan areas with a population of at least 200,000, according to a report by real estate data provider Adam. Things aren't as dire as they look, however, according to the Illinois Housing Development Authority Executive Director Christine Faust, a bureaucrat, of course, who said foreclosure rates are actually at historic lows. In the bigger picture, unemployment rates are low. People are working again. A lot of people are able to take advantage of forbearance, she told the Center Square. Most people are back to making mortgage payments, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's interesting because, of course, we went through a big, huge foreclosure crisis after the 2008 meltdown of the housing market. So to them to say that it's not at least at a historic low is still not saying much when we are leading the pack in foreclosures. That's actually the headline. We're leading the pack in foreclosures across the nation. Along with the highest numbers of foreclosures, Illinois had 1,757 foreclosure starts last month, just behind 3 of the biggest states, Florida, California, and Texas. So we're actually doing quite poorly when it comes to that. We also have not recovered our jobs since prior to the pandemic, and we're not doing well economically. More on that in my next podcast when I have Ted Dabrowski in tomorrow to discuss that and also do a little bit of comparison between Illinois and Florida and actually Illinois and California. So we're going to talk about all that. What else tells us that Illinois is not on the right track? Well, here's another article that I found interesting from CWB Chicago. Prosecutors decline charges in triple shooting that followed Chicago Pride Parade, also reject felony charges in a triple stabbing. Yeah, we continue not to prosecute major crimes. Last Monday, the article reads, hours after 3 people were shot and 3 others stabbed in separate incidents following the Chicago Pride Parade, city officials offered glowing reviews of their performance. Everyone responsible for the shootings and the stabbings was in custody. The police had everybody in custody that they felt was responsible for the shootings and the stabbings. The next best thing to preventing is holding the person accountable and making an arrest right away, which is what happened, said Chicago Police Department Superintendent David Brown. That's what he told reporters Monday afternoon. Police also recovered a gun from the shooting, Brown said. There were incidents, the shooting and then the stabbing, but all assailants are in custody. That's what I've heard from the commander, said veteran Lakeview Alderman Tom Tunney. It's unfortunate, but I have to give a shout out to the police. They did an amazing job. Indeed, moments after the shooting, Chicago police arrested the 3 people, blah, 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 on and on. Well, here's what they learned. CWB Chicago learned that the Cook County State's Attorney Office refused to file any charges against the 3 people who were in the pickup truck that they found speeding away from the shooting. As of this morning, no one is in custody for the triple shooting. And the stabbing case? Well, CDP issued a press release last Tuesday evening to announce that a woman had been charged with 3 felony counts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. On Wednesday morning, they issued a correction. She had only been charged with misdemeanors. Why? Because the Cook County State's Attorney Office rejected felony charges. rejected felony charges. That's right. Kim Foxx says, let them go. Why are the police even doing their work? Large crowds. Here's another article that I found very interesting. Again, from CWB Chicago, and I highly encourage you to check out their website as well. They do all sorts of interesting reports on crime in Chicago. Large crowds injure 3 cops, damage CPD squads on northwest and southwest sides overnight. Crowds of people threw rocks and fireworks at Chicago police officers while others climbed onto occupied Chicago Police Department squad cars as cops responded to disturbances on the city's northwest and southwest sides overnight. 2 officers received minor injuries and 3 patrol cars were damaged, according to CPD reports. No arrests were made. No arrests? No arrests were made. Unbelievable. The first incident occurred on the 4,000 block of North Milwaukee in Portage Park around 2:27 a.m. On and on and on. No arrests were made. And this is also important because there's plenty of January 6 folks who simply walked in through open doors of the U.S. Capitol and then walked out just minutes later, and they're still in solitary confinement. For what reason? For what purpose? And I haven't talked a lot about that national issue, but it bothers me to my core. And I do hope to, at some point, get Julie Kelly on. She's actually an Illinoisan. She's written extensively about January 6th. She wrote an entire book about January 6th. She's been on national media about this issue. And so I do want her to come in and talk to us about this, because we don't see crime being prosecuted here, and yet we see crime being over-prosecuted from the January 6th incident. And I'm not defending people who did that. I think they were stupid to do what they did. But does it rise to the level of solitary confinement for literally 500 days? No. Not when you're letting murderers out on the street to reoffend, which is exactly what's happening in Chicago. Now, this is a little bit of a shorter section, but I'm going to also read to you a couple things that I just found out that happened. Right here in Wheaton. Right here in Wheaton. I've got some crime reports. This is from one friend. She writes, there have been a huge outbreak of cars getting broken into in Wheaton. Watch what is exposed in your car while parked in the driveway. A friend from work was with Catholic Sports Camp Sunday at 4 p.m. at 7 Gables Park. 150 people were there. About 6 cars got broken into, including her friends. Windows were smashed. Wheaton sent 1 policeman, and there were 7 at Wheaton Sports Center. 9 other incidents in July. So this is happening. Then I found out about this. That there was a break-in in Wheaton. There was a break-in in Wheaton in a very nice neighborhood. We have a lot of nice neighborhoods. And what we found out was that this actually somebody broke into the home, and the gentleman was in the home with his wife. They called the police right away. They were told to lock themselves in their bedroom. The only thing he had with him was a box cutters. The perpetrator smashed a back window, opened up the door, and went in to steal. And then this report came out. It says, apparently, our deputies have seen a recent increase in burglaries to unlocked vehicles parked at country clubs and large parking areas. So we would like to remind everyone to safeguard their personal property when enjoying outdoor activities. So this is, the crime is coming here, and it's going to get worse. And so next up is I want to play for you a clip from that was played on AM 560. Of Jim Glasgow, who is the Will County State's Attorney, because January 1st, when that comes, you need to listen to what Mr. Glasgow says. He essentially says that he's going to have to let 640 people who are currently in jail out of jail because of the crime bill that the Democrats passed. He's going to have to let them out, including 60 murderers. And he's going to have no choice but to let them out based on the bill that they passed. It's making you less safe. 60 murderers are going to walk out of jail January 1st if this bill is not repealed. And Jim Glasgow is a Democrat, and he says every single candidate should be asked whether or not they will repeal HB 3653 that was passed in the dark of the night by Democrats that J.B. Pritzker signed. Because he said Chicago crime is coming out to Will County, coming out to DuPage County. At least we put the criminals away. And with this bill, starting January 1st, we're not going to be able to do anything. So take a listen to this clip.
We've got a bill coming down the pike here that's going to go into effect on January 1st. It's called the Safety Act, and then the no bail bill portion of it. If that bill goes into effect, literally, Bob and I, our hands will be tied. The police officers' hands will be tied. The judges, and we'll have this. What you see in Chicago, we'll have here. I won't be able to hold anybody in jail longer than 90 days if they demand trial. And at the 90th day, they get out, no matter what crime they've committed. And then, if they don't show up for court, I can't get a warrant. I have to get a rule to show cause. Well, ask your fellow officers here if they're going to go in the inner city and try to serve a civil writ on someone charged with a triple homicide. It's not going to happen. They're not going to come back to court. It's going to be literally the end of days. And I'm working on a project to deal with it. I can't say much more than that. But you as the electorate need to demand anybody running for election in November is going to vote to repeal this bill. It will destroy the state of Illinois. I don't even understand the people who support it, why they can't realize that. I've got 640 people in the Will County Jail. All their bonds will be extinguished on January 1st. And 60 are charged with murder. And many others with violent Class X felonies.
That's serious stuff, folks. He's not lying. He's a professional. He's been in the business for a long time. And we will put out the expanded clip. He made these remarks at a Safe Suburbs event hosted by Kevin Coyne and his group called Safe Suburbs. He made these remarks in Naperville. He did it in the open. He knew what he was doing. This is a clip that I believe came from the Naperville Community TV 17 channel. We received a copy of that. And we're just letting you know. But you should listen to the entire thing. We'll put out the entire clip of Jim Glasgow. And hopefully we'll also get him on my podcast. But if you're listening to this and you're another part of the state, you should ask your own state's attorney about what this bill does. You should ask your sheriffs about this bill, your own municipalities about it, your policemen, your aldermen, your council members. Everybody should be asked about this bill because this makes you less safe. And crime from Chicago is coming across the border because they think the same rules apply, and they don't. But pretty soon, you're going to have one person making the rules about crime, and it's Kim Foxx in Chicago. Do you want her running your county? I don't think so. All right, signing off for now. Thank you for joining me on The Real Story with Jeanne Ives.